The strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, recapping Chapter 9, Dr. Lanyon's narrative. Now we change focal point here and see events that have already occurred through Lanyon's eyes. So this is all about revealing the full truth of the horror of events. So Dr. Lanyon receives a letter from Jekyll in which he exploits their long friendship to persuade him to drop everything and complete a task upon which Jekyll says his life depends. Following the instructions, Lanyon is to go to Jekyll's cabinet, where a locksmith will break it open for him. Despite his misgivings, he does this, and when he arrives, he collects a drawer full of chemicals and experiments which he takes back to his house. As the letter said he would, Lanyon receives a visitor at midnight. It is Hyde, although Lanyon doesn't know him. He uses the contents of the drawer to make a strange potion. Before drinking it, Hyde offers Lanyon the choice of witnessing its effects and suffering the consequences, or letting him go and never knowing the truth. Lanyon chooses to watch, and as Hyde drinks it, he begins to transform violently and horrifically until he takes the form of Henry Jekyll. Lanyon is horrified by what he sees and realizes he will not recover from the sight. In the letter Jekyll writes to Lanyon, he is quite manipulative, repeating the word honour to emphasize that this is what he stands to lose and making it seem Lanyon's duty as a friend to help him. He hammers the point home by emotively portraying himself as suffering in a phrase that makes it seem like this is happening to him rather than as a result of his choices. Now, this is the fourth time that we get a description of Hyde after Enfield, Utterson and the maid in chapter 4. And being from Lanyon, it's more clinical than previously. He's described in contradictions, sickly looking but strong. And the focus on the disturbance being near him causes reminds us of the reaction of the doctor in chapter 1. His comments suggest he sees this as a physical manifestation of the evil, not just in Hyde, but in mankind itself. This is in the essence of Hyde, as he says, referring to him as a creature that to deny his humanity. Hyde's interactions with others have been few in the book so far, but here it reminds us this is Jekyll, as he speaks with familiarity to Lanyon, challenging him in a way that suggests he's proud of the evil of his work. It is beyond Satan himself. As he drinks, his exclamation to Lanyon is one of triumph, as though this proves that he was right about science all along, calling himself Lanyon's superior for having achieved this horrific thing. Lanyon has never been anything more than a representation of a different kind of science, and the way Jekyll treats his old friends, in comparison to Utterson sticking by his friends to the end. But here we see the effect of what he sees as something that troubles him to his soul, hardly a scientific reaction. He affirms that the effect has stuck with him, that he now has to live with terror, and finally classifies it as a moral failing. Ultimately, it's down to good and bad. His verbal reaction to what he sees, appealing to God, echoes that of Utterson after the incident at the window. It's as if the horrors of Jekyll's science forces man to go beyond the scientific and back to faith. We have another document here in Jekyll's letter to Lanyon, which continues the idea that letters produce unpleasant results. The distance lacks humanity despite Jekyll's emotive pleas. The motif of the door that's used throughout the story as a barrier to the truth is pushed to its logical end here, as the door is so hard to get through because the truth it hides is so horrific, the same as we saw in the previous chapter. This is a prelude to its use in the previous chapter, where it needed an axe to reveal the horror of Hyde's death. The opposites of the two types of science here then also reaches its climax. Jekyll speaks as though this is a victory for him, proclaiming Lanyon's science as narrow. Yet what Lanyon and us see doesn't quite back him up. Now, there are two key transformations in this chapter, the first of which is the potion. The focus of the description is visceral. We work through a series of unnatural colours, see and hear the bubbling, which suggests it's boiling without any obvious source of heat, and experience changes in pace, impatience, and then calm. But after all the duality of the book, we finally get to actually experience the physical transformation of Jekyll, which is equally visceral and horrific to the extreme. The initial lack of control, vocally and in movement, raises the power of the potion over the person. But it is specific details that have the most effect. The injected eyes, in this period meaning that they're congested with blood, the face becoming black, a change that's been hinted at in the novella previously, and facial features that melt. Think of how much more horrific that is than simply changing.